Now on the continuous call team.
So what are you doing these days?
Where are they now?
And today we're saying hello to a fellow that played 290 first-grade games for the Bulldogs and the Broncos, 30 for St Helens, 7 tests for Australia, 5 Super League tests, 22 State of Origin appearances for Queensland, including the 3 Super League Origin games, the Dally M Centre of the Year in 1998, the Ron McAuliffe Medal victor in 2000 for the Queensland Player of the State of Origin Series, grand final with Brisbane in the Super League year 1997 and in 1988, the following year when the amalgamated comp came back. So he's regarded as one of the best and most versatile players ever to pull a boot on. He played in the second row and the centres. He was distinctive by wearing his headgear most of the time, and we'll get to that very shortly. But today's guest is Darren Smith. Hello, Darren.
Hey, David, how are we today?
I'm very well, thank you. Tell me, what are you up to these days?
Mate, I'm a school teacher at the moment, high school teacher. I look after vocational education and career pathways. Also teach a couple of Cert 3 classes at school. The school's Clevo MacKillop College at Marankavat here in Brisbane.
It means obviously you're giving something back to the kids, because as a kid you were pretty promising football. You made your break into the game at a very young age, really.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I was playing first grade in Brisbane. Part of that, I played for Eastern Suburbs in Brisbane. I had 99 first grade games for them. Actually, it was pretty good. And the great Bullfrog Moore came up with Punchy Nelson to watch one of my semi-finals, and I was lucky enough to get picked up by the Bulldogs when I think I started the Bulldogs when I turned 21. So I was pretty lucky.
Did you play against Great Britain in 1988 when an Ellery side came out?
Yeah, I did. I played for a combined Brisbane side. All I can remember was Martin Offier. He had a lot of grease up and down his leg, and I think he scored about 4 or 5 tries because no one could grab onto him. He kept sliding off him. It was probably one of my biggest memories from playing against the Brits then.
He's pretty quick too.
Oh, he was. Once he went through, that was it. No one in our team was quick enough to catch him.
Darren, was that 1988 was when the Broncos came into competition? Was that a disappointment for you not being part of the Broncos, or were you a little bit young then?
I was probably a little bit young. I was offered a contract as one of the development players, but at the time I just knocked it back. I was playing first grade at East, and I thought I could do better. And luckily enough, the Bulldogs came through a year or so later and took me down to Canterbury.
Was there any other interest, Darren, when the Bulldogs came up and saw you and signed you?
Before that, I had an offer to go to Western Suburbs. Laurie Fryer was the coach, I think, at that time, and he took about, I think there's about 3 or 4 Brisbane guys he took down. But on the day that I was supposed to fly down and have a look around, I had second thoughts and just rang up and said, no, I'll give it another year in Brisbane, just back myself. And the Bulldogs came calling.
You started wearing the headgear because of a concussion, is that right?
Yeah, back in 92, was playing Cronulla Sharks at the old Belmore Oval. I think it was the second game of the year, and it was only I think it was the second tackle in the game as well. I went up to tackle Mark McGaw, Old Sparkles, and my side of my head hit his hip, and that was the end of it. I was gone, and I missed a fair few games. I had a pretty bad head injury, and I played a couple of games afterwards, but in the end, I more or less had to sit out for a fair while, and it was a while before I was able to come back to the game.
So the next question is, how effective was the headgear, especially now that we're talking about concussions and what people might be able to do to reduce the impact of it?
Yeah, well, I didn't really wear headgear until after that bad injury, and the doctor more or less said, you got to play with a headgear from now on. It took a while to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's just another part of your equipment that you got to wear, and I think it's it's certainly helped in a few situations after that as well, in tackles, where you might have put your head in the wrong place or whatever, and it certainly is. It gives you a little bit of added confidence, in protection as well.
Darren, 290 first-grade games is a lot of first-grade games. I'm just trying to work out, I know you had at least 2 stints with the Bulldogs. Did you have 2 stints with the Broncos as well?
Yeah, I started at the Bulldogs. I ended up leaving the Bulldogs and went up to Brisbane. I originally signed with the Crushers when they were coming into the competition, but funnily enough, my accountant or the guy who was looking after me found that the club didn't really have any money behind them, and in hindsight, he said, you're better off, getting out of your contract now, and in case nothing comes through. And in hindsight, 3 years or 4 years later, they end up going bust anyway, and I ended up signing up with the Broncos instead. And the rest was pretty good for me. I played there for a few years, played a grand final against Canterbury in '98. Ended up winning that one, and then went to Canterbury the next year with the grand final ring at training, and that was a pretty good day. And played for them for another, I think, 4 years at whatever it was, and then I went overseas to St Helens, and then ended up coming back, and I signed back with Eastern Suburbs in the Brisbane comp again, and because I had 4 years previous before going to Canterbury at the start, and and then Broncos came in, and I was dual registered for 04 and 05 seasons.
Right, mate. Did you tell us about, you were around during the Super League war? Like, I'm just guessing here, but I imagine you was probably almost at your prime when the Super League came around. Did you? What was that like for you? Did you just think, oh, how good's this? Yeah,
when I look back at what I was probably offered, what wasn't the greatest, but for me it was I didn't have to work. So I just had to play footy, something, play and train, more or less work in a game that I've thoroughly enjoyed and enjoyed playing growing up, and now I get to the opportunity just to do it full time, and that was a godsend for me, and I did that for a fair few years. But it was pretty. I went up to, I think it was Lachlan Murdoch's place here in Brisbane. He had like a big.
Tell us what happened.
No, just there was myself and I think Alf was there and Andrew G, and there was one or two other Broncos players, and we just went in one at a time and had a chat with John Rebo, and blokes would come out and they'd be cheering and yahooing and carrying on. So it was pretty funny times, but it was a good time too. In respect to the year that we did play Super League, we got to go overseas for I think 3 or 4 weeks, playing against the English sides, and they came over and played 3 or 4 weeks over here, and it was great. We did a fair bit of travelling that year.
Darren, I'm just having a look at some of your notes here, and I want to go back to 1994, and there was a situation where, from what I've read, you refused to re-sign with Canterbury, and you were negotiating with some other clubs, and they sort of reduced your role in the team.
Yeah, I was just a little bit annoyed with Canterbury at the time that they were talking to other players, and and I was coming off contract, and I wanted something to get done, but they sort of just put me as part of the furniture, to the side, and I was a bit annoyed by that. So that's when I ended up signing with the when the Crushers were coming in, and the attraction of going back home to Brisbane appealed to me, and it was. Like I said before, I did sign with them, but I got out of that contract and ended up signing with the Broncos and went with those guys.
See, 94 also, I think, was the year of the fantastic Mark Coyne try to win a State of Origin series. I think Wally was the coach. I think I'm right. And it was 94, wasn't it? And you were involved in that try.
Yeah, I was part of it. I was really surprised at the time because I got a ball off Michael Hancock, and everyone knows Michael doesn't usually like to pass the ball. He likes to run over 100 players before he gets tackled. But no, I got the ball off him, and I ended up passing it onto Al. So I had a little bit of a part in that one. It was great.
Oh, how good's that?
Yeah, I think it was a bit more than that. It was an amazing try, though. It was caution to the wind stuff, and you're right. Fancy Mick Hancock throwing a pass.
Yeah, so, it started from one side, and the original people at Mal Meninga and Mark Coyne, they played the ball, and one of them was dummy half, and they ended up finishing off. Their whole move went one side, over the other side, and came back all the way back over to them, and they ended up finishing it off.
You played you came back to play one of the most astonishing test matches in the history of rugby league, because you weren't even in the Ashes squad when Chris Anderson was coaching the side in the early part of this century. And at the age of 35, he rang you up and said, mate, I think you better come and play for Australia.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. There was a few Bulldogs players, Darren Britt and Barry Ward, and that were over at St Helens at the time. And when the Aussies were coming over at the end of the season, we knew a few of the staff and all that, ex-Canterbury people. So on the first test, we thought we'd go and watch. And after the game, we went down to the dressing room and having a few drinks and chat with the guys and all that. And then, at that time, Chris had, come up to me, had a few beers with the boys that while we're in the dressing room and said, "Oh, look, mate, one of the players is injured, mightn't be any good for the rest of the tour. Would you come into the squad if we needed you?" And I said a few things, but it was pretty good. I said, yeah, definitely, love to, but didn't really think much of it. Went home and just said to the wife, I might have to go in the camp tomorrow. Not sure. I was just waiting for a phone call. Anyway, the phone call didn't come until later on that next evening. I thought, oh no, it looks like nothing's ever going to happen. But it did come, and it was late in that evening, and my wife had to go and drop me off at the team hotel that night. Yeah,
he should be picking you up, I would have thought, mate. Your brother Jason, did you get a chance to play with him at all? Because he was an outstanding player. Like you're very different players, I thought, in my opinion. But he was.
I had more speed.
Yeah, you're a better player. You're a way better player. But he was probably better with the ball. He was a tremendous ball player. Did you get to play with him much?
Yeah, we had a few years at the Dogs there in the early years. He was more or less another one that got away from the Broncos as well and come down to the Dogs. We had a few years there. We had a few games in the State of Origin arena as well.
Well,
he was never on my side when we played out in the front yard at home, though. Always had my youngest brother with me. Yeah,
Did you used to smash him?
Yeah, we used to give it to each other.
Yeah. How many games did you finish up playing with East in Brisbane? Because you played 290 for the Bulldogs and the Broncos, 30 for St Helens. How many did you end up playing for East? Almost 100.
99, yeah. There was one short of the 100, yeah. So I played over 100 for the Broncos and Broncos and Canterbury, but unfortunately I just didn't get that one extra game for the Tigers.
It's an amazing career you had, and I think that at 35 they ring you up and say, "Would you like to come and play with? Put the green and gold on again?" What was, if you had to pin one particular moment, what was the highlight of Darren Smith's career?
I just think getting signed up to play with Canterbury at the first time you get signed up. That's that all that hard work that you've done, all those extra hours, and all the stuff that you've tried to do to get to be the best you can, and that all paid off with Bullfrog and Barry Nelson coming up to sign me up. That was the pinnacle of the start of it.
And you mentioned Barry Nelson, and we found out today that he passed away during the week. So a sad day in many ways for rugby league, but by gee, he gave the game a hell of a lot.
Yeah, he did. He was a great man. I really respected both Bullfrog and Punchy. They were terrific people, and they certainly were ahead of their time. They loved looking after the families of the players, and it was a really family club led at that time, and and they really looked after the players at that time as well.
Darren Smith, thanks very much for your time on Where Are They Now. It's always a pleasure to speak with superstars such as yourself, and I'm certain those that listen get a refreshing insight into a young man that certainly lit up the fields in the 80s, the 90s, and the early part of this century. Great career. Thanks for enjoying it with us.
No, I really appreciate it too. Thank you very much, Daryl and David. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good on you, Darren.
Thanks, Darren.
Darren Smith, another great chat, fellas. Well done. And if you've missed any of our Where Are They Now guests, you can download them via the 2GB and 4BC websites, or where you get your podcasts to access the continuous call team as well.